As I mentioned at the start, we have a guest joining us today. He is on the phone, I believe, Jim Simpson. He has joined us on the show before. He is running for Congress, a truly brave thing to do. He is running for Congress in the great state of Maryland, Congressional District 2. He's in a primary, and because, they have different states have different dates, I'll tell you that the primary in Maryland is coming right up. It's in June 2nd. So it says it's less than a week away. It says coming Tuesday, June 2nd. Jim Simpson, he's been on the show before because he's just an amazing spokesman for conservative ideas of all kinds, especially related to immigration. His professional experience includes working as an economist, a businessman, author, journalist. He has an undergraduate degree after studying at Keystone and University of Delaware, and a master's degree at University of Delaware also. So he's just he's a very informed, long-term businessman, true patriot, and I believe we have Jim Simpson on the phone. And there he is. Well, there's his picture. So hi, Jim.
Hey, Debbie. Great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
So glad you could come on. Well, I want to jump in because we never have enough time. So I noticed on your website today that, and maybe this has been there a while, and by the way, for our listeners, the website is Jim Simpson for Congress, for the word FOR, JimSimpsonForCongress.com, and on Twitter at James M. Simpson. I noticed you have the endorsement of former Governor Bob Ehrlich, and former governor of Maryland, where you are, and it's a really, really great endorsement. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yeah, those were very, very nice words of support he gave me. I really appreciated that. And the endorsements page includes a lot of other people, and some of those people I think you already know. And, I'm honored, honestly. I'm honored and humbled to get those endorsements and those words of support. They really are very meaningful to me.
Well, I would think so. Okay, well, I love it too. Okay, so Jim Simpson, you've got a primary. I know I'm not even going to talk about the other jokers, and there are a bunch of people in it, but June 2nd. And so I noticed on your website, you honed in on 3 issues. And I usually ask candidates, elected officials, why you're running, what are your big issues, but you honed in on 3. So I'm just going to turn to those and talk to you about those, and especially in Maryland. The 3 in order you had: immigration, crime, and the economy.
Yep.
Can you talk about crime, especially you're in the Baltimore area? What is the reason crime in Baltimore is a big issue?
Well, Baltimore City has a murder rate that parallels with some third world nations. And it is largely because the crime in Baltimore City, despite the best efforts of the vastly understaffed Baltimore police, has gone on unabated and largely unchallenged. And many of the people who are arrested get off. And I was told by a retired judge who was in Baltimore for his entire life that they get off because many of the people in the jury pool are their, neighbors, their friends, and also have some kinds of records themselves. So there's this strong attitude of sympathy towards those who commit crime, and there is an institutional bias against people who are victims of crime. When I lived in Baltimore City, I used to walk my dog late at night, and we lived right in the heart of the city. It was a nice little neighborhood, but there were armed robberies right there. Our next door neighbor had their house basically turned over. Somebody down the street, a woman walking her baby, was held up at gunpoint. So you walk at 3 or 4 blocks in any direction, and you're taking your life in your hands. But I used to follow people around, and they kind of freaked out because here's this big dude chasing them around with a cowboy hat and a dog, and they just didn't know what to make of it. But I did not carry a gun because, well, 2 reasons. First of all, I became more afraid of the police catching me with a gun than I was afraid of being caught by, a holdup artist or a criminal of some kind. And then I discovered that really they weren't afraid of me or my gun, they were afraid of my dog. So, but But the point is that it's really it's overwhelming. The problem is overwhelming, and the decades and decades of Democrat leadership in that city have essentially abdicated their role in helping to enforce laws. And they're very anti-police. You know, the city's state's attorney goes after the police, and she doesn't go after criminals. She has relatives who are criminals, who are drug dealers. And you recall what happened during the Freddie Gray incident when the mayor came out, Stephanie Rawlings Blake came out and said, I'm going to give them room to destroy. So she was basically giving them license to go out and smash police cars, light their own neighborhoods on fire. You know,
right? She was legitimizing their violence and excusing it, saying that that they've got to vent, they've got to, it's a. I will tell you, I think I mentioned with you before. My husband and I moved to Texas from the Washington D.C. area. We used to take our kids up to Inner Harbor in Baltimore as a fun little shop, lunch out, get an ice cream cone. When our kids were little, I mean, maybe it's gotten better, but I know since we left, it went through a horrible period, a lot of crime, gangs hanging around, and it was not safe for families there. But I got to jump to your other two topics because I want to be sure. So you actually write about immigration as one of the key issues that you're running on, and that I probably should have asked you about that first. So what are your overriding goals on immigration were you to be elected to Congress?
Well, you know, Maryland is a sanctuary state, and a big part of both the crime issue and many, many other issues we have here is the fact that illegal aliens are given preference to citizens. I mean, black businesses are destroyed because they are taken over by illegal alien businesses who don't have to meet any of the stringent regulatory requirements of an honest business in Maryland. Illegal aliens are given in-state tuition. They are given all kinds of advantages and kowtowed to by the Democrat establishment. And we all know this is to enable and encourage more to come, and then second, once they're here, to get them amnestied so they can vote Democrat to further solidify the Democrat electoral base, because they know they're losing a lot of people just by virtue of the fact that they're so radical. And so, and Maryland now is has the second highest population of MS-13 of any state in the country except California. And you know, when I talked about this, I wrote about it in, I think, 2014, and I talked to the state police about it, and you know, that was news to them. At that point, they had not had a single case against MS-13. And they had tried all kinds of, the Black Guerrilla family, the 18th Street people, all these different gangs, but they hadn't even considered MS-13. And MS-13 has essentially a sanctuary within the sanctuary state in Montgomery County, which is overseen by a guy who runs an organization called Casa de Maryland. And he's got all kinds of shady backgrounds in the past, but it's essentially an illegal alien advocacy organization that gets millions of dollars from the state. And so this is the kind of situation we face. While we know in the meantime, illegal aliens use excessive amounts of welfare, even though they're not legally supposed to get any welfare, they take spots out of state universities so that Maryland students cannot get them. They commit crimes way out of proportion to their numbers in the population. And I could go on and on with all the problems they create. And that's, Maryland is ground zero for that. I call it California East, because it's just
Sorry,
But
excuse me for cutting in. I gotta
yeah,
say though, I know because we lived in Maryland before here, and it's amazing. I mean, it's, it used to be, yeah, it's just a very liberal place. I want to jump to one other topic very quickly. So, what is
sure.
your overall sense on America's response to the coronavirus epidemic? Are we needing to move toward reopening America, or should we stay down shut longer? Do you feel like there's a political bent to how America responded to the coronavirus?
Oh my God. Well, yes, yes, and yes. I have written lots of things on my campaign blog page, and starting pretty much before most people were talking about it. And here's the issue. We didn't know what we were dealing with at first. And President Trump, I think, dealt with it as best as you possibly could under the circumstances with all the unknown factors. But as the situation has evolved, we've come to see that we made a lot of mistakes, and we still don't understand things entirely. But I say today, it's all irrelevant because we are already getting to the point where we are going to surpass the number of people dead from the coronavirus, even if you take the statistics at face value, which I don't. And to add to what Twitter tried to correct, Dr. Birx herself said that they overestimated the number of corona cases. They were calling.
She sure did. Yeah.
She said that. So how they get their person? But anyway, there are people. We get 150,000 people a month are diagnosed with cancer. That is a statistic right out of CDC. So for the last 2 months we've been shut down. How many cancer patients will now be facing a situation with a metastasized cancer that could have been caught a month or two ago, and now it's going to be too late? How many people have stayed at home and gotten heart attacks and strokes? As you and I both know, the numbers of people in being admitted to hospitals for both of those things have dramatically dropped off. And that doesn't mean the number of strokes and heart attacks have dropped off. It means they're not going to the hospital. So how many are going to die from that? In certain places, suicides have already surpassed the number of suicides for the entire year. And I helped this guy put together a model that I put on my website. It's called Restart Now. And he looks at states county by county and assesses the risk and cost of staying shut down versus opening up. And he identifies counties where there are more people who have died from unemployment-related suicides already than there are COVID cases in that county. And so we are facing a disastrous situation. We are going to have to open up and face this thing head on without 6 feet of separation, without the damn masks at some point, no matter what.
Yep.
And we have to open up. We have to do it now and let the chips fall where they may. And I've been going out. I'm not afraid to shake hands. I'm 67. I potentially have, compromising situations, but I'm not afraid of it. And if it happens to me, well, I'm sorry, knock on wood, but then it happens. It doesn't matter. We have to open up or the cure is going to be much worse than the disease.
Absolutely true. Jim Simpson, I'm so glad you could join me today. The website again for people, Jim Simpson for Congress. That's the FOR spelled out, JimSimpsonForCongress.com. On Twitter at James M. Simpson. Primary in Maryland, Republican primary, June 2nd, coming right up. And sir, I love that you got that great endorsement. I wish you all the best. I'm so glad you could join me. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks so much for having me, Debbie. Great to be with you again, as always.
Great to talk to you. Okay, my friends, so this is a time, it's a strange time in America. There are many candidates out there vying to win primaries or to win a general election. It's a huge year. A lot of people think you're just always really focusing on President Trump and is he going to win re-election, and is Biden going to stay in as the VP? But there's many races in every state, there are races, every single member of the U.S. House up for re-election. Many vital House seats in question. We'll return to tomorrow and talk about some predictions about how very easily Republicans could lose majority control of the Senate. Republicans could lose majority control of the Senate. Got to understand that for tomorrow. But on today, I just want to make the point that we need to be, for all races across this country, getting in the mindset that says this is an election in 2020 about keeping America on course for freedom, keeping America on the track we were on before the coronavirus came along, where we had a renewed economy, a strengthened spirit of Americanism, a growingly securing border. We had just brought jobs back. We had the lowest unemployment numbers in all sorts of categories in decades, and in some cases forever. We were on track and America was on track. The left is watching this Trump storm for the first 3 years of President Trump's presidency and looking at all the success they've seen, we Americans have seen and recognized, wow, people in America are figuring out that freedoms and free markets work, that they like this new economy. They like this regenerated, reinvigorated culture of Americanism and loving America and reassertion of American sovereignty. That's what Trump has done, and this is why the left is so determined. So in every state, wherever you are, there's an election for Congress because every single seat in the U.S. House is up, many Senate seats up. We'll talk about that tomorrow. But I encourage you to see the election, to speak about the election. In every case, it is a question of America or not America. It is staying on the path of restoring America, which is the Trump agenda, or the not America path of just giving in to all that the left is trying to do. We'll hit more of that tomorrow.